Which one is my black and white filter? Like,
I have one of those.
I know I do. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get a filter on here. That's. Is it one of those like add-ons you have to get specific for?
Oh, are there sounds?
There's audio.
There is sound, but it's low.
Really low.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I don't know, like.
Is it really, really low?
So look, I can turn myself black and white, motherfuckers.
Hey,
Nice.
how do you do that? Oh, is that on your camera?
Yeah, it's on my camera.
Carrie, I think it's background sound. One of your mics is picking up the sound.
Uh-huh.
Broadcasting that.
Oh, okay. Let me check and see.
Why does the stream not make sound?
Oh, you can't see. There you go.
Oh, there you go.
You like an applause one?
Oh my god, yes. That'd be great. I'm just amused that I can be black and white.
Are you gonna stay black and white?
I'm just gonna stay black and white. I'm staying black and white. Tell me a sound.
I don't think it's me. I can, yeah.
No, it's if all of our mics are muted, it's through whatever board Curious is running.
Do we have other options? Can we run?
Yeah, can you talk?
Yeah, talking. Like,
Sweet.
What? How did you do that? I need to be involved.
yes! Yes!
How did you do that? What I got the camera. Setting. Oh fuck! Now I need to go into like my fucking settings for my camera. Ah. My old ass computer here. Where's my camera?
I mean, literally, it's just 69 people watching us just like fuck off right now. Like, at this point in time, no, we need them to start, like, making up what we're saying.
Right? Apparently some people have closed captioning on so they can actually read every word. So
Yeah!
That's awesome. Everybody turn closed captioning on.
Oh my god.
Or we'll all just be, you know.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, I mean, and that means that if closed captioning is picking this up, we're feeding to YouTube.
yeah.
So John BF just said, "Yep, Carius sounds normal, but no one else."
That's funny. Well, and the fact that they shouldn't be able to hear him.
Oh.
Right. Nobody should hear.
He should be the one muted, and we should be the ones live.
Oh, maybe it's switched.
I don't know.
I.
We can if you want.
Like now we need Sassy to figure out the black and white on her camera, and then we can go from there.
So my issue is that I'm on a Mac and it's just ridiculously difficult to figure out.
Oh shit, there's sound. Stop.
Woo! There's sound. Woo!
You have sound.
We got sound. Hey guys. Oh my god, now everybody's freaking out. Everybody. Let's get every single person here telling us. I can hear it from upstairs too.
Okay.
All right.
With that, you want to start from the top, Miss Sassy?
We're going to start from the top. So what we're going to do, everybody that's tuned in right now, we're going to keep this video up, but we're going to edit it with a little like thing at the beginning that says skip ahead to timestamp whenever, and we will start the whole thing over. So do we want to run the show credits again, or we do want to just jump right in?
No, I would just jump right in. Let's roll.
Apologies to everybody, and thank you for your patience. And this is why, you know, the crazy stuff happens when we do this stuff live, and that's why you love us. So we're going to do this whole thing over again. Welcome to Between Two Peers, a live stream show where the hosts invite a guest from around the known world to answer your pressing questions about life, the universe, and everything. This week is sponsored by Whiskey Sours, because it's all the joy of whiskey, all the ease of juice, and has a literal cherry on top. Also, we just kind of, after this last like 15 minutes, need to drink. Maybe we should actually make a new drinking rule. Whenever there's tech problems, everybody just drink.
We would die.
I'm Tulia Alori. I'm a Laurel from the West Kingdom, and I am super excited about tonight's guest. And we scheduled her weeks ago, so I've been waiting for this moment for weeks. And so I'm just going to toss it over to my co-host for her introduction so we can get right down to business.
Hi, I'm Helga from the West. Also, I'm deciding that tonight is just a throw it all out the window and let's have a rocking good time with our amazing guest tonight. I've been very excited about this show. Y'all have just sat through 12 minutes of us having a silent movie and fucking off in the background while we tried to figure out our sound. So if you're still with us, you are now count as a hardcore fan. And so I just want to say thank you for sticking around. So tonight we have Baroness Zahra, who is one of my delightful friends, also a mastermind. And so would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay. I'm Zahra. I'm the SCA DEI officer. I live in the Middle Kingdom. I think I'm going to leave it there because we're going to talk about me a lot. And I don't want to do too much.
It's all about you, baby.
I would like to note extra bonus point if you refer to Sassy as Sir Danger Muppet tonight and me as Sassy, because we're on the wrong side of the screen. And so we're just going to roll with it. So tonight I'm going to try to be sassy or sassier, and she's got to be a little bit more Muppety.
Oh my God. I don't know if I can do this. So out of my element right now.
So, with that, I'm going to remind everybody the drinking rules as they have been updated. The updated drinking rules are: drink whenever a host or guest uses a non-SCA name when referring to one another. Drink when somebody's pet appears on screen. Drink when somebody calls for a soapbox. And yes, audience, please call us when we soapbox.
Sometimes we don't really realize it ourselves.
Yep. Drink when somebody mentions spite sprinkles or toe beans. And the guest rule of the evening. Zahra?
We are going to drink every time phrasing gets called and agreed on, but there's a penalty if you call phrasing and it's a false alarm.
Is a penalty applied to all of us or just the person that called the wrong phrasing?
Kind of just sounds like we're all just going to drink a lot. So
Okay.
I really think it's just everybody drinks.
All right. And with that, I'm going to remind our amazing audience that you can submit questions while the show is live. We're definitely going to run over tonight since we're only 19 minutes in, and well, we're just getting started. So
to be real, who's got anything to do tonight? Like, raise your hand if you've really got anything else to do in this COVID wasteland of nothing on a Friday night. Although if you do, good for you. Like, I'm totally, good for you. Having a life. All right, so we're gonna get into this question thing. This is from us, the hosts, to our guests. tell us about how you found the SCA.
Okay. I found the SCA pretty recently in comparison to most people. I found the SCA in late 2016. I was super bored and I really liked going to Ren fairs, and I had a couple friends that were like, have you ever heard of this thing? I think you'll like it better. So I went to a meeting at first and I just did not click at all. Like, it just didn't work for me. I was kind of like, okay, they were busy. They were planning an elevation. I didn't know what any of that meant. So I was just kind of in the corner, just like, yeah, this is. And then I got dragged back later by the same friends later that year. And this time I went to an event and it really stuck. Like, it was the most amazing event. I had this amazing time where I didn't know what peer fear was. So I was like, yeah, I'll retain for the queen. That sounds awesome. Great. And then she was amazing. And she took all of this time to like show me around and introduce me to people. And it was just mad cool. And now I know like what a huge deal that is and how significant that is. But at the time I was just like, boss, I love it. And then I went to an event the next week and the next week and the next week. And, I did 36 events in my first year.
I love you. Gosh.
Yeah, so you went kind of like from do to like deep end, motherfuckers.
Yeah, straight in the deep end. I was gonna say your origin story sounds a lot like my origin story, where I was a Ren Fair person. I loved Ren Fair, and I had friends in high school who were like, "Well, if you like Ren Fair, you'll like this other thing." And yeah, that was my mad descent into crazy town. But and here I am, 27 years later. Yeah.
Are we ready for the next question?
Yeah, let's do the next one.
All right, this one comes from Asa.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. During your tenure in office as the Society Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, what's the single most lasting effect on the society you want to leave?
So it's a brand new position, right? So if I screw it up, it probably won't exist anymore. So part of me just wants to be like, I would like this to keep being a position. That would be mad cool. I will call that a win. But mostly what I want us to do is start really moving forward in the direction that we're going so that we can better our recruitment strategies and better our retention for people in marginalized groups. And that's across a lot, right? We want people who have accessibility issues to feel like there's a space here. And we want people of color to feel like there's a space here. And we want people in the LGBTQ plus community to feel like there's a space here. And so I think the lifelong term of our society depends on us continuing to embrace these principles. So that's my long-term kind of hope.
Nice.
I think you have done a great job so far. I can't imagine, I don't want to jinx it, but knock on wood, that you've done such a good job so far. I don't really see this position going away because of you. So hopefully that holds true. So I mean, it's true, actually. We'll get into more of this as we ask more questions, but I will say that you've been an incredibly visible and accessible individual in this office. So, all right. Next one is from Countess Fortune of the East. What preconceived ideas did you have about the job of the DEI officer, and what has been true and what hasn't?
So I applied based on like a job description, right? This had never existed before. And even when I first kind of stepped up, I was expecting a little bit of pushback because I knew that the ideas would be a little bit difficult for people. But I was expecting to travel a lot and go to places in person and get a feel for the different cultures and the different problems that we're facing different areas. I was not expecting a plague. So that's been fun.
That caught me off guard.
I was also not expecting like the civil rights resurgence that we got. So that's been fun.
Yeah, right up your job description alley. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to think about how much the plan shifted from like, I had this, I was going to go in person. It was going to take a year just to kind of get a feel for everything. And then I was going to create this game plan that involved kingdom level officers. And now, I mean, we've got like 15 kingdom level officers and everything is virtual. And instead of spending my time like jet setting, I'm spending my time making like Zoom calls and virtual training, which is fun. No, it's good. It's good. It's been really amazing. And I could not have made some of the connections and friendships that I've made without being in this kind of virtual space.
I don't think I would have crossed paths with you if it hadn't have been for us just all having to be really engaged online and engaged, because in my job as social media, Kingdom social media, we do a lot of working in conjunction with your office, and it is sort of like a couple of tiers trickled down, but I got to know you through that, and then also as the result of the show, and also the fact that we all have to be online all the time in order to interact. So I would say it's a pretty good benefit. A lot of people I wouldn't have met otherwise. I'm now count as amongst some of my nearest and dearest. So yeah. Am I loving you too much? Just let me know if I need to back off the fan.
Go on.
All right, we ready for the next one?
Yeah, and here's Danger Muppet, all businesslike tonight. We got a lot of questions to get through, actually.
We do.
Yeah, a lot of people had questions for you. So
yeah. So the next question comes from Petrona. Petrona?
Yeah.
Okay. I literally want to be like Patronus, and then I'm like, no, put an A on the end, then we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Petrona, tell us about your first night at Penzic.
So may I add an addendum? She specifically mentioned the swamp or the bog. Maybe the bog. Yeah, and that you had some good stories about that.
So I went to my first Penzic in like 2017. And I had never been to anything even kind of like Penzic. I don't know that there's a lot like it, but I definitely had never been to anything like it. I didn't go to Burning Man or anything like that. And so I camped topside and it was cool. And I was like, all right, this is pretty much what I expected. There's tents and shit. Awesome. And then Petrona was like, let's go check out the bog. Like there's a whole place down there. There's like, it's all around the lake. There's a lot of parties. And I was like, okay, let's go. We ended up getting a little bit lost, and like we wandered into like a musical camp, and they just like boozed us up and filled us with drink and had us like singing around a fire, which was super overwhelming for me who had never done anything like this before. What I specifically remember, which is so funny because it was this amazing night and we had so much fun and it was so amazing of her to show me around. But the thing that like stands out for me is we went near Fledermaus and everyone was naked, which is fine. And these two girls come like dashing out of camp, like twin turnip torso, just flopping. And they ran into this like porta potty, and I'm sitting there shocked. And Petrona's like, "Hey, sorry, like there's a lot of nudity here. You'll have to get used to it." And I was like, oh, "They just went into the porta potty without shoes." Like, what in the bacterial infection are they doing? Like, and I lost my shit for like 5 minutes because I was just like, oh my God, they walked into a porta potty without shoes. Like, someone do something.
That is exactly what I was thinking. Without shoes? Ugh.
Yeah. I'm having an emotional experience over that. Like,
I have a lot of feelings right now.
Hardcore, like,
Oh man, it is not pretty. I mean, I get squicked out with the fact that I wear long skirts. I usually have a long dress or something that's ankle length or floor length, and dragging that through the privy, and I have to immediately, like every time I take the clothing off, it's got to be like strategic so the hem doesn't touch anything up here. Wash the hands, because that shit's nasty.
Oh God.
All right.
So yeah, that was what stood out.
Yeah.
Weird.
Next question.
Yep.
All right. This is the one I warned you about. This is one of your peers, Mama Maggie Mack. She says, coming back after COVID-19, what does Zahra see the biggest challenges we will face in maintaining the momentum we have built online as far as the work of the DEI office goes?
So I'm going to talk about two things. I'm going to talk about a society thing, and I'm going to talk about like a me thing. So on the me side, all of the plans that I had made have now shifted drastically. And I have no idea what I'm going to do. Like, I'll be totally real with you. Most of what I plan for is virtual. I know in theory that we're getting back to a normal everyday like SCA, but I have not been able to make those plans because they will be based on wherever we're at the time. And I don't know when we're going to get back to it. So I don't know how I'm going to take this stuff kind of offline and translate it to the real world. Not the online world, but
yeah.
And then I think for the society, we have kind of at this point created a lot of drama around the concept of DEI as a society. There's been a lot of back and forth in both directions. And because of those kind of waves of discussion and controversy, I think when it comes to being in person, we're going to see some challenges in how it's applied. Like there are a lot of things about the office that I've kind of heard that are very positive, but also people have a lot of fear about how it's applied. Like for some reason, like people are afraid that we're going to outlaw certain types of personas. People seem to think that, you know, you go to the mirror and you say my name 3 times and I like pop up behind you and make you take a class on privilege, which is true. But other than that,
I'm going to try that. I'm going to stand in front of the mirror in the dark with a candle and be like, Zahra, Zahra, Zahra. And then, yeah.
That's what I do. I pop out. It's amazing. So I do think that when we get back to person, we're going to have some challenges translating some of the controversy around it to the very not controversial way it manifests itself. Because I do think that once people see that it's really not that zesty in person, they're going to be like, oh, we just like save seats in court for people who need to see the Silent Herald. And I'm like, yeah, can you just do that? Like,
it's kind of goes in with like what we already do. I mean, in practice is the, you know, somebody who needs to sit up front or is in a wheelchair or a mobility device of some form needs, you know, like an easy access point. Like we're already making those accommodations. All we're doing is saying, this is what we're doing in writing and making it an actual policy. And I think you're right. I think when we get back into the real interaction in meet space, people who are worried about all of these policy changes or policy being created around these things are going to realize it's kind of stuff we've already been doing.
Yeah.
You know?
I do think it's not going to be as shocking once people see it applied and once we have the community, because there's no way to gently call someone out online, right? You just kind of have to either do it privately or say something in space. But in person, you can kind of pull someone aside and be like, hey, that wasn't super cool. Let's rephrase that. Or, hey, I noticed you seemed confused about this. Do you want me to explain this to you? It's just going to be different.
Yeah, it's always easier to deal with people, you know, it just face to face, because we are people who, you know, human beings are not just verbal, and we are people who read, you know, physical cues and facial reactions and things, and that all of that is so much easier to do when you're in person versus just writing words online, you know. Yeah. All right, next question.
Are you guys going to answer anything?
Well, those are only for you.
Those were all sent in just for you.
Yeah,
now we're into the group questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like I also put my input there, and Helga was being very respectful of that and not putting her input in. I'm just steamrolling tonight, apparently.
So the first question comes from Anya. What is your hands down most awesome defining moment in the SCA? The one that really let you know you found home among like-minded people?
Oof, that's a hard one. I don't know that I've had just one. defining moment. I feel like I've just had like a perpetual series of like reinforcing moments where like I'll be having a difficult time. Like last Penzic, after I got this job, sucked. Like it was really hard. There were a lot of incidences that happened there, and I was just a deputy at that point. But I was training, so I got pulled in. And they were hard. Like it is hard to be at a war and be dealing with that kind of really heavy stuff. And I can't tell you how many friends in different camps were like, you're safe with us tonight. Like you can come here and you can turn off and we will ply you with alcohol if you would like, and you can just be. And I think every moment of that was really significant. But I mean, there's so many like moments where I'll just be like sitting with house members or talking to my peers or being with my friends where I'm like, this was the right choice for me. Like I feel such relief when I'm around these people. And I feel like I really get to be myself around these people. So yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have a specific one, but I have a lot of reinforcing ones.
Mhm.
That's totally valid. I think for me, it was very, very recently. And I've always felt like the SCA has been a safe place for me, just to be who I am and not have to have any pretenses or anything like that. But the moment that actually reinforced, and they're kind of like two specific moments, but they were interconnected with each other. One of them was when my ex and I broke up. My ex and I had been together for about 10 years, and we were fairly high profile peers in the kingdom, very much out on the forefront of a lot of things. We broke up. It was bad. It was not a good breakup at all. And I used to joke, like literally joke with him that if we ever divorced, quote unquote divorced, I would get the SCA in the divorce. And that actually kind of happened. It's, you know, he moved into a different kingdom and everything. And, you know, he's kind of out of my world at this point. But the way that the people in the kingdom rallied around me when that happened, I was never expected any kind of real support. I always expected kind of well, there's two sides to every story, and there's, you know, we want to maintain a friendship with him if you don't mind. And I was kind of prepared for that, but a lot of people were just like, no, nuke him from orbit, like literally just nuke him from orbit. And
I felt were like,
yeah. I mean, there's still some people that are very much emotionally invested in him, and that's okay. I maintain friendships with him just fine. But the overwhelming upswell of support for me was completely unexpected, and a huge, huge thing for me to know that it really was a family thing. It really was something that where everybody who understood what had actually gone down went, oh yeah. You know? And were there for me when I needed it. And then the kind of thing that tied into that was when, you know, a year or so later, I get together with my current boyfriend, who's also incredibly high profile. I was expecting a lot of drama around that just didn't happen. And in fact, what happened was people were incredibly supportive of that and said like, no, you guys are like a great match. You know, we're happy for both of you. So the SCA has had my back through thick and through thin and through good times and bad. And I've been in other costume organizations, other reenactment organizations where I did not have that level of support. It was basically one teetering on the edge the entire time. Like one little thing could push me over and I was out. And that's kind of what happened. And that's why I keep coming back to the SCA, because I really feel like it's a community, it's a family, and they've always got my back. So far, hopefully I won't do anything to disabuse them of that loyalty. Helga.
So mine's simple is I'm very much so in the reinforcement category. I started young enough in the SCA that I was still very impressionable and I was still very savagely wild. I am still a savage. I'm just a little more cultured about it now. And nobody's ever going to take the savagery away, actually. Like, just going to make that clear. Little side note, rabbit hole. The savage part staying. Cultured savage versus being a little wild savage. And I'll just say that I've had over and over and over reinforcement is because also I've grown up in the SCA. I've been very blessed by it. And so as I've gone through the phases, I've had different reinforcement. So like I was struggling in college to pay for my books. I had a couple SCAers put together a pool and pay for my college books, or like broken down on the side of the road in a truck that should never have been out of a wrecking yard and being rescued in this, 500 miles from home. And then being able to turn around and do those things for other people, is the SCA is this constant circle of like, we take somebody that's in almost dire straits, really, and they find the SCA, and we find our geek squad, and then that geek squad takes care of you until you're up on your feet, and then you then turn around and do the same thing for somebody else. The SCA is very focused on that cycle. Is one of the reasons why I think the society is so big, is we find our tribe and we find our geekdom, and then we have the little reinforcements constantly, where like there's people. I almost got stranded in Chicago one time and posted like, holy shit, they're shutting down the airport. And I had people that I never even knew being like, I got a couch, like, we'll take you out to dinner. Like, I'd love to meet you. This be great. That's my people. So stuff like that is when the cards are down, the SCA and the people that you meet in it will show the fuck up for you. And it's amazing. You have to be bold enough to ask. Like, that's the one thing. You have to be bold enough to ask. And I've always been bold. Like, that is not a trait that I fucking lack. But if you're bold enough to ask, there's somebody in the SCA that can help you in some way. And they try to help. And that is one of the best things and the most reinforcing behaviors that happen. And so over and over and over, the SCA has just reaffirmed it's my tribe.
All right, next question.
Yep.
All right, so this is Lady Refna of the Outlands. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. There are many mundane causes that can be represented through garb, regalia, or other medieval accoutrement of the SCA, such as pride chains, pride belts, etc. However, there are also groups pushing back who feel that these are inappropriate for the SCA. What are your feelings about this trend / use of... It's a long ass question, and we reworded it a bit because it was even longer. So, but yeah, the idea behind like pride chains, pride belts, their applicable use in the SCA, or
not me. On a soapbox for half an hour. No,
soapbox.
I'm not kidding. I'm gonna go off.
Do it.
So, we as people in the SCA do not walk into the SCA and leave who we are outside the SCA behind. We don't. It's ridiculous to think we do. When we walk in as members of marginalized communities, we bring all of that in. If I feel unsafe because I'm in, some weird rural town that I know used to be a sundown town in the middle of rural Illinois, then I don't feel any safer just because I walked into a space where there's a bunch of shields and swords around me. When we talk about those kind of mundane things and bringing them into the SCA to show our position on who we support and how we support them, and we talk about that as ruining the game or not being appropriate to what we do, what we are saying to members of marginalized groups is your safety and your happiness at an event comes second to my experience of what I think is medieval. And that's problematic. 1,000%. We should absolutely be continuing to show support in the ways that we can. And I think a lot of people have come up with lots of different medieval-esque options for Black Lives Matter pilgrim badges, for pride chains that fit like the paradigms that we have already for different chains. There are a lot of things, and I'm not saying anyone has to do them, right? You shouldn't feel like you have to do them, but you absolutely should not be telling other people that they're not allowed. The other part is that a lot of people will talk about this and they're not sure whether or not it's enough, right? You need words, not deeds or whatever, but it's words and deeds, right? You are not necessarily going to make the SCA safer for everyone just because you showed up wearing a Black Lives Matter pin. But if 15 people showed up wearing a Black Lives Matter pin and someone walked in who did have nefarious intent towards people of color and they looked around and they saw the silent support, maybe they wouldn't open their mouths. Maybe they would look around and they would say, this isn't a place for us.
Mm-hmm.
So there are benefits, even if you're not the person who is then going up and making a speech about it or anything else. Now, that all said, you absolutely should also be engaging in the kinds of things that members of marginalized groups ask for,
Mm-hmm.
right? It is not enough to wear a pin that says, I'm a safe person, if you are not a safe person. So you should be doing that as well. But I will die on that hill if people say, like, this doesn't mean anything, you shouldn't be doing this, there's no way to pinpoint if you're actually the kind of person. What people can do is worth doing. Better is always going to be better than nothing. And we can't let better be, you know, the enemy of perfection. Like, we're never going to get there.
Yeah.
So that's my, I'm going to.
Everybody fucking drink to that epicness that just.
I'm watching Carius in the, you know, you can't see him, but he's making this like, just drink. Yeah.
You're all going to drink. I have a soapbox on this one too.
Oh my goodness. I'm almost out of cocktail because I sent a text message to a certain Duke and
Yeah, well, you know, that certain Duke better show up. So my soapbox is this: so Zahra eloquently covered the first part, you know, the big chunk of this, of like, it is an action towards inclusivity, and we shouldn't stop that. So I'm going to speak to two things. One, don't automatically assume that somebody not doing it is the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we radicalize people.
Yeah.
Like, just understand that it's a choice. And you're either making the choice or not. The second part, by doing it, you are proclaiming yourself a target.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how part of the support is actually created. So when a movement starts, especially the people starting the movement are literally declaring themselves targets because they are allies. And this is something that I didn't realize until I'm actually the one me and a couple other knights were like, well, fuck, we did the pride chains, we should also do black chains. And so I have a mixed chain on me tonight very specifically for this show so we could answer this question of one side is all the pride links, because if anybody hasn't figured it out now, I'm bi and poly, and really all over that fucking spectrum of pride. And then the other links are black, so it's a mixed, it's my mixed support chain. And I actually had a knight sit down and tell me, you shouldn't do this. And I was like, why? And it wasn't anything beyond, it wasn't negative. He's like, you are a 5'5" female, and by doing this, you are making yourself a target. Somebody could kill you over this. And I went, then that's the reason why I should. Because that moment in time, that's a knightly thing to do. To flat out just put out there, fuck you, I'm in support of this. And I'm literally willing to risk my life. I'm willing to risk, you know, people fucking spitting on me, which has happened. I'm willing to, you know, get shouted down. That's fine. At that moment in time, that was the moment where somebody said, this could literally end your life because you're deciding to back it. And I said, I've had friends that were killed over less. Mm-hmm. And they weren't supported anywhere near as much. I am white presenting like a motherfucker. And you want to know what? I want the society to be a place that is inclusive, that is welcoming, and that everybody feels that they can walk through the gates no matter the color of their skin, their religion, or their sexual orientation, and be a part of our group. Because we're mad, like, geeks. We're geeks. Like, that's it. We're a giant umbrella of geeks about medieval culture and hitting each other with sticks or making pretty things or service, or like, there's a ton of stuff, or drinking. Who gives a fuck? Drinking in Bardic, like, that's totally worth it too. I'm willing to
say that is an art.
It is, but I'm willing to like actually like risk life and limb and anything else so that my friends can be here with me. That's what a knight does. That was the moment in time where I realized that my oath really fucking mattered. Mm-hmm. And so I have this chain and I will wear it until the day I die, because we'll always have work to do.
I don't think I could say it any better than these two lovely humans. But
Also,
I will
I'm
say,
totally drinking for that one.
everybody who hasn't been drinking, please drink. Also, I had a very grumpy Duke just stomp down here and hand me a shaker full of gin and tonic. So he said the conversation was so good that he didn't want to leave listening to it. He felt a little, slighted, I think, by my comment. But what my response to this question is, I have been in a unique situation where I saw, or I was there, one of like half a dozen people that was standing right there when a Nazi motherfucker walked into an event because they saw some symbols that they interpreted as a swastika and thought that we were those people, and was very excited to meet us and was super, super thrilled that, he could just wave the swastika flag fucking high. He got cussed out, yelled at, escorted off site, basically told to fuck off and die. But that feeds into the question of, where problematic symbols, while they may be period, can be interpreted vastly differently than their original intended use. And we have to be cognizant of that, and we have to be very careful about that. How this pertains to the question with, specifically with pride chains and Black Lives Matter pins and chains and things like that, I'm 100% for it. We are a creative anachronism. There's two words right there: creative and anachronism. We are not in the time that we're purporting to reenact loosely, and we are doing it creatively. We are not doing it to the letter of the law. We are not mandating that because, in the 8th century in Denmark, the swastika was an acceptable thing. So we're going to be sticking with that because we know that we're using it in its original context. That's not what we can do in this group, and not what we should be doing in this group. And when we associate ourselves with problematic imagery, we kind of set it up for a modern interpretation of it. And we are modern people doing this wacky costume thing. We should never forget that. Oh, Zahra.
Totally have a thing.
Yeah.
Really quick.
Yeah.
It occurred to me while Helga was talking. And I used the right name. Yes. Yes. Oh my God. So a lot of people threw around the term virtue signaling when people started wearing mundane kind of little support symbols. I want to point out that term has shifted dramatically in a very negative way.
Yes, it's been appropriated.
It has been.
The right wing, extreme right wing.
It has been. So the original incarnation of the word was to describe this very specific phenomenon where you could invoke the idea of values, but it didn't necessarily say anything about what you were doing. So like there's a grocery company that did this Values Matter campaign. Whose values? Like what? Like that doesn't mean anything, right? That doesn't mean anything, but you're still trying to appeal to people's morality. And then people took it and they started twisting it and twisting it and twisting it. And now it gets thrown at anything where all you have is a symbol or all you have is language, which is tremendously unfortunate because there are a lot of times where there is no accompanying action, right? Like it's just a statement online. It's just a symbol that I'm wearing right now. Virtue signaling is absolutely a real thing, but we need to be really mindful of how we use that term to dismiss the work that other people are trying to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hardcore, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It is such a weird time to be in the SCA and doing what we do and trying to I really think like that fundamentally, I honestly really believe that fundamentally the SCA's values, what the SCA was founded on, the principles of the SCA actually are very, very much in line with inclusivity and just it doesn't matter who you are, what you're about, what your thing is, you're welcome. Because fundamentally, as Helga said, fundamentally we are nerds who are just excited to geek out about the Middle Ages. We can discuss later what that actually means. And so we are a more inclusive group than we are an exclusive group, which sets us far apart from other reenactment groups, which is why I say we're not even a reenactment group. We are a recreation group. We kind of take like the best parts of what we like. The costumes, the pageantry, the titles, all of these things that we think are kind of cool, and we cherry pick those out, or we cafeteria style select those things that we like, and we put them into a context and a value system that we get to create for ourselves. So I think that the SCA absolutely can embrace BLM pins or pride chains or Black Lives Matter chains or any other sort of visual identification for those groups that are marginalized and may not feel inherently welcome in spaces where we are very much like we're medieval, but we can absolutely incorporate that and make it a part of what we do, and it hurts no one. It absolutely doesn't hurt anybody. Of all the random wacky shit that we do that is not historically accurate, yes, let's have a pride chain. It's just one more thing that, you can't document it, but you can't document like a bunch of other random shit that we do that is completely codified and baked into who we are as a society. So there's no harm in it. You're not hurting anybody. You're helping people. There shouldn't be anything wrong with that. That was my soapbox. All right, I'm drinking.
I was about to say, this one caused a soapbox out of all of us.
3 soapboxes.
Also, I'm gonna dogpile on this for a second. One, as a knight, it is my job to virtue signal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is just note that. Somebody calls me virtue signaling, I'm like, legitimately, I have a peerage in that. So go fuck yourself. And the second one is I literally have a snowflake chain because I got called a snowflake so often that my amazing friends got together and made me a chain out of silver snowflakes.
Amazing friends, meaning us on Between Two Peers, without her knowledge, got together with our friend Morgan, who was one of our guests, who is a metalsmith, a goldsmith, made her a beautiful chain with snowflakes.
And you can wear snowflake chain on DEI night?
I can go get it.
Well, we're gonna break for commercial.
I've legit cut the shit out of myself with that chain.
Yeah, it's sharp.
Oh, no,
it's like wearing little razor blades, and it like even in the note it says that. Like, so I have a cut scar on the back of my neck from that fucking chain, and it is one of my favorite chains because it is delicate and also will cut you.
Maybe. I mean, if you're all about like the pain, then that's cool. But I was like, maybe also just kind of like wrap that bit around your neck that's back here.
I'm gonna back it at some point. I'm gonna back the whole chain because it's a delicate silver chain, but it's my favorite thing. Beautiful. So,
well, if you wanted to grab it during the commercial break and to show everyone,
I think I'm going to do that. So with that, shall we go to our commercial break for a moment?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, Carrie, you ready to roll?
Okay.
He gave us the nod. We'll see if this actually works. So everybody, hang on for this ride. Buckle in.
I'm ready.
Are we going?
Painted Sky Pottery creates unique, medievally inspired pottery. From Roman phallic Samian ware to 16th century proper costrals, they make it all. And with everything from plain terracotta to bright glazes, you are sure to find the perfect piece. As we head into the Yule gifting season, you might find just this right item for that special someone. You can find them on Facebook at Painted Sky Pottery. The Cedar Wardrobe specializes in custom-made garments tailored to your measurements. Patterns are pulled from period sources whenever possible for a more authentic look, and full hand sewing is available upon request. If the item you're looking for isn't on the website, just send an email and we can work on a custom order together. Everyone deserves to have clothing that fits well and flatters their body, no matter what shape they are, be it corsets, medieval or Renaissance garb, reenactment of any era, cosplay, or ritual wear. The Cedar Wardrobe is here to help you fill your custom-made needs. Find them at thecedarwardrobe.com or facebook.com/thecedarwardrobe.
Over 290 times, heroes have met upon the Crapeau field, under the watchful eye of Constable Sir Bertrand de Gecklin. An unbroken line, come rain, shine, or pestilence. To determine the rightful tricentennial Crapeau, the Fellowship of the Argent Angel shall host a tournament in March of the year 2021. 3 days of fighting and feasting, of shared words and experiences, of courage and chivalry, shall end with one most worthy. The 300th Crapeau. Do you have what it takes? For more information, go to bit.ly/300 Crapeau to find the Facebook event page.
Painted Sky Pottery creates unique, medievally inspired pottery. From Roman phallic Samian ware to 16th century proper costrals, they make it all. And with everything from plain terracotta to bright glazes, you are sure to find the perfect piece. As we head into the Yule gifting season, you might find just this right item for that special someone. You can find them on Facebook at Painted Sky Pottery.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I just stole Helga's line.
Yeah, I was about to say, welcome back. Hello. Hi.
I just had to let you know, though, that was because Zahra was making me blush hella bad right before we went back.
Hey, don't flirt with my wife on camera.
She's your wife? What? Why didn't anybody tell me?
Okay, so little sidetrack story for everybody. So
Nobody told me this was official.
So Zahra and I are doing a DEI panel. And at this point, like, we kind of just barely know each other. And I said something and she fucking texts me, girl. And like that, like, I'm going to show you a little bit of upper thigh and maybe some ankle. Like, you might get full on ankle. I might pull off my sock for this. And so this now started where we're doing a very serious panel where I'm like the one night on the panel. We're talking about like DEI issues. We're all trying to be serious. And Zahra and I are in the comments the entire time, like, blowing it the fuck up. Like, we are like throwing down the flirting and like everything else like that behind the scenes, and like the moderator is like, you two, stop it. You need to. And so then we'd be good for like 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden like one of us would answer something and the other one would be like, girl, do you need to see some calf for that? Because that answer was worth some calf. Like, how you doing? And so it's turned into the internal joke that she's my wife.
Well then, I feel really, really sad that I was not notified of this. But also, Helga, since I am Danger Muppet tonight, that won't stop me.
I was about to say, I'm Sassy, so now I have to sit back and watch.
Yes. No. Sassy doesn't sit back and watch. Sassy just sits from the sidelines and snarks the entire time.
I will give commentary on your performance.
I'll be like, yeah, you think that's hot? Whatever. I've seen hotter.
I've done weirder shit in San Francisco. Come on.
Yeah, total. Oh, definitely weirder shit in San Francisco. That's like amateur hour. Anyway, let's get back to the questions.
All right. So back to the questions. This one comes from Sophia. What is the least amount of clothing you've ever worn at night at an event?
So normally I wear Ethiopian, which is just like a sheath, and then there's this really long veil that gets pinned to your hair and comes down it's pretty long, right? But it's very insubstantial. So the Ethiopian is made out of a certain kind of cotton, and it's super cool. Like it's actually from Ethiopia. They don't make this kind of cotton here. It's very, very cool. It does not do well in humidity, and if it gets wet, it just never ever dries. And so I'm in this, and it was like a Pennsic night, and it just was like gross and heavy, and someone had like spilled a drink on it, and so it's like kind of see-through, but kind of pink because someone spilled a drink on it. And I was a little drunk. So I was like, I'm done with this. So I just took off the whole sheath and just like artfully arranged the veil
You're like,
and hoped that no one else in camp cared, and they didn't. So yeah, I guess the least amount of clothing was a veil for most of the night.
For me, I've never gone completely naked at events because I haven't lost any bets, unlike a certain Duke upstairs who is in the comments talking about it. But I would say like probably the most least clad I've ever been at an event didn't happen at night. It was in broad daylight. And I happened to walk out of my tent to get something in my chemise, which was thigh length. It wasn't like short, but it was thigh length. Bits were covered, but it was a very sheer linen. I knew exactly what I was doing, by the way. Apparently I made Brian of Bellatrix's neck kind of snap as he walked by, like just what? And it's great because Ula just happened to walk away, so she didn't have to hear that. But yeah, I have walked out of my tent in broad daylight, backlit. That was the other part I forgot to mention. In only my linen chemise, which was quite fine linen, and one should be proud of oneself, right? So yeah, it wasn't even at night because why waste that shit at night? Just walk out on the Eric completely.
I mean, I'm trying to figure this out. Like at night, and so there's been more, like, amusingly enough, probably more public, like, least amount of clothing, because I just assume I'm built like a little draft horse. And so I tend to put on layers because then I'm dealing with my little draft horse body I'm not really feminine built. I did, however, 100% like
you are built like a woman because you're a woman. And
so I'm built like a woman, but I'm also built like a draft horse. I'm built for work.
You're still built like one.
But I'm
whatever that
draft
means.
Horse. Like, I'm a draft horse with hips.
Those are beautiful too. Shut up. Stop trying to downplay yourself.
Hey, I would like to note that a lot of women like riding draft horses because it's the biggest chunk of meat they can stick between their legs.
Exactly. Also, you're beautiful no matter what. So, carry on.
So either way, in this phase, I did strut out of a pavilion in a very minimal sports bra and a set of leather pants and nothing else. And proceed to go to the bar and get a drink and then strut back in where the occupants were left waiting for me to return, but I needed to go get refreshment.
People are trying to call a phrasing on that, but I think that was an entirely intentional phrasing. So I'm not entirely sure we should drink.
I would like to know. We haven't called a single phrasing yet. I mean,
if you want to like just call it a phrasing, but I want to say that was an intentional phrasing. A phrasing usually is when it's unintentional.
Oh yeah, no, that was very intentional. It's like biggest piece of meat you can stick between your legs. Like that's the easiest equestrian joke ever. I also love how right now we have Curious's loading window over the YouTube channel. Which is like the best thing ever.
What are you talking about?
Oh, if you're watching the YouTube, like he opened his like.
Oh, I just switched
like and it totally went over the top of our cameras.
I didn't see that. Okay.
Good thing he wasn't watching porn while we were watching the show.
Well, that would have been fun. That would have been an automatic.
That would have been an automatic
YouTube strike. Oh, and then he zooms in. He zooms in and does the eyebrow waggle. Yes, thank you, Carius.
So are we ready for the next question?
Let's do the next one. Yeah. Okay, so this one is from Viscountess Geneviève de Vendôme, which I love saying her name all the time, and one of my favorite people. How do you respond to cultural appropriation discussions in the SCA?
So like when people come to me, usually I'm just like, I teach a class on this because it's such a complex topic and there's no like hard black and white answers on a lot of things except blackface. Don't do blackface. Don't.
Like,
That
if
is
you're
a
gonna
hard
darken yourself to look like something, even though if it's historically accurate, just don't do it.
Yeah, don't do blackface. That's just just throwing that out there. But there is no real black and white answer on a lot of it. So I usually am just like, I teach a class. You should check it out. I don't engage a lot with people on the topic like in the living of life because people very rarely are kind of seeking the knowledge up till now. Like the first class I ever taught was my cultural appropriation class, and it did not have a particularly warm response when I first taught it online. So when I taught it in person, this is a topic that like a lot of people don't know a lot about, and it's kind of hard to engage with someone on a like, this is appropriative. If they're like, well, what the fuck does that mean? You're like, okay, let me just so I teach a class. So yeah, back to square one. I do think if you are going to talk to people about appropriation, it's worth noting all of the healthy ways to explore other cultures and to really couch it in a positive, you should do this, instead of like that very negative, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do this, except for blackface, which you should totally be like, you shouldn't do blackface, by the way.
Okay.
I guess that's
So actually, somebody while we're in this, somebody in the comments asked about what about the Celtic face bands?
Yeah.
Like, because that can get like, so they're associating that with blackface. So
I don't think they're associating it with blackface. I think they're asking about just in the in cultural appropriation, because, and I was actually going to tackle that question on my answer, but I'm super curious to if Zahra, you have an answer. Or
I mean, so I don't generally recommend that people try to imitate things that are spiritual or of like significance in like ascension of self. And I'm not familiar with Celtic face bands, so like I would not recommend that someone take something from a culture and put it on their body if it signifies that they've like achieved a certain coming of age thing within the culture, because you haven't. And it's very potentially problematic. And I don't know if that's woad, isn't it blue?
Yeah, it's woad.
Yes.
It's blue. Yeah.
But it's not like just like a full face with red lips.
I mean, sometimes it is actually full face. Sometimes it is
Okay.
just, you know, like it is actually, well, what people theorize it really was, because we don't have actual visual. I mean, this is what I was going to discuss in my answer, but yeah, we don't have visual representation of what it really looked like. We have verbal descriptions where they talk about just being painted blue or painted in designs. And we don't really know what it looks like, but blue is not blackface.
Yeah, blackface is pretty notable.
Yeah.
And like it's a combination also. So you've got the darkening of the skin and then like the reddening of the lips.
Yeah, the highlighting of the lips. Yeah.
So if
and
you've got designs in blue, you're probably good.
Yeah. And so the over exaggeration of, you know, features in blackface makes it a thing. But yeah, it's Helga, answer the question. I will get further into that in my answer.
So how do I respond to cultural appropriation discussions on the SCA? Is I actually respond very typically with, I don't know enough. You need to like, let me go seek experts in this. And like, because right now I'm still in the learning phase about cultural appropriation versus cultural appreciation. I tend to err on the side of what I am doing might be appropriation. And so I will then go seek somebody that has it. Like Zahra and I talk all the time where I'm just like, is this appreciation or appropriation? Because one of the things that I try to do is I try to put myself in the student seat of it all the time instead of pretending that I know shit. And this allows people with much more knowledge about it to say, nope, what you're doing is appreciation, or you're bordering on appropriation, and then giving me those bounds. And so I'm going to speak to this question as a student, not a teacher. And as a student, what I do is I actually try to seek the knowledge about it and then try to apply it to what I'm doing. And also one of the things that I've learned is pretty much as a dominant culture, white, what I need to do is actually surrender my power in the situation and seek other people that are in marginalized cultures to say, either one, am I representing your culture correctly? Mm-hmm. Am I giving it the right things? Do I have the right base of knowledge in what I'm doing? You know, are you okay with this? And if they're okay with this, then what I do is that's actually like, it turns into almost kind of like a paper where I'm like, these are the reasons why I'm doing this. This is how I am defending and approaching my position. I am still remaining open to feedback about it, because if somebody else comes to me and be like, dude, you're being super fucking offensive right now, I can be like, whoa, my bad. Let me go fix that.
Mhm.
And so that's where like I am, is how can I continue to be a student of this idea that is developing within our culture right now, especially as I present as the dominant culture, which means I need to be very aware of my power in it and never be dismissive. Even if I'm like, I don't think you're right now. Like, I really don't think you're right. I shut my fucking mouth over that stuff and just like, okay, cool. And then I will go to the experts that I keep around me to be like, I just got called on this and I don't think it is this, but I want to make sure. And then those people can then either be like, nope, they're actually right on the call out, or anything else like that, but continually be a student. Surrender your power in it, continually be a student, continually seek knowledge about it. That way you can dance the line of appropriation versus appreciation.
I think it's also be humble. Be humble when someone comes to you and says, the thing you're doing could be interpreted negatively. Be humble about it. Don't immediately go on the defensive. Listen to the explanation. But so in the comments, we've got some questions about the woad face versus blackface. Fundamentally, so academically, I come from a background that deals extensively with cultural appropriation in a later period. So I'm not the arbiter, or I'm not the authority over everything that has to deal with cultural appropriation, but I understand it from an academic perspective. And it's an academic term that got appropriated, weirdly enough, by the mainstream several years ago. It got picked up, and now it's become something else. It is different from its original academic purpose, and just as an academic standpoint and point of argument. And now it's basically a buzzword. It's become a buzzword. And so we lose a lot when it becomes a buzzword. We're just going to put it there. But cultural appropriation was always in juxtaposition with cultural appreciation. So where you have to find that balance when you're talking academically is, what is the difference between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation? I'm not going to get into that because that would be an entire lecture. But in the comments, we were talking about the, woad being used all over the facial features, which does darken the facial features. One of the things that I have to say is that Celtic culture doesn't exist. And it's hard for people who feel very like they identify with Celtic, quote unquote, culture. It doesn't exist anymore. It is a thing that does no longer exists. Now, Black culture, African American culture, that is a thing that absolutely does exist. Those are two different things. When you're talking about culture and you're talking about it from a person who is white, and you're trying to say, well, my culture, most of those cultures have been completely eradicated centuries ago. We have a dominant Western paradigm that is not Celtic. It's not anything. It's kind of its own thing. And again, that's an entire other lecture series we can get into. So the reason why woad face, painting yourself blue entirely, is not the same as painting yourself in blackface is because blackface is something that demeans Black culture. Fundamentally, it is a mockery of Black culture. It is something that says, we exaggerate the features of African Americans or Africans. We accentuate those features and we make fun of them. You cannot apply that to Celtic culture. A, because Celtic culture doesn't exist, and B, because you're white. If you identify as quote unquote Celtic, you identify as white, which is the dominant culture, which is the dominant paradigm, which means that if you want to paint yourself blue, fucking go for it, because that's not going to be read as blackface. I don't think there was any situation where anybody's going to be like, okay, some random person reenacting a Celtic warrior from like the 3rd century AD is going to be, painted in blue at all. That's not going to be that. It's not going to be. So yeah, there's a lot of like weird little nuances that we need to drill down to. Broadly speaking, though, woad, not the same thing. So, I mean, if you want to paint yourself blue and run around naked, also we could argue that's not really Celtic, that's Pictish, and that's a completely different culture than Celtic. But yeah, there you go. I guess that's my simplification of it. It's very simplified.
So I do think that when we talk about it, like, again, I have a class if you want to see it.
Yeah, definitely watch her class. Absolutely, go on.
I do think that like the baseline tends to be a respectful engage, right? If you cannot engage in a culture coming from a place of respect, which means you're not cherry picking, you're not taking and twisting symbols, you're going to that culture and respectfully engaging. And when that culture has a degree of discomfort with your level of engagement, you are backing off.
Mm-hmm.
There are many indigenous cultures that are like, we do not want you to take our symbols and put them on your body. But if you're still interested in exploring them in the SCA, you can invite speakers. You can look at the educational materials that they have, talk to them about how you can use it for A&S projects. Like, there are so many options that aren't necessarily persona-based that people can engage with and do so respectfully. That was not a soapbox, so I refuse.
I think we all, I mean, I for sure kind of had a soapbox there, and I will drink now again for that. But yeah, and I'm kind of like trying to catch up on the comments too, and people are bringing up things like Vikings and dreads, and I'm saying like we don't really know what the Vikings kind of did. We cannot equivocally say like 100% the Vikings did this specific thing every single time and it meant a thing to them in a specific context, the way that we can with African American culture and dreads or any, kind of whatever you want to pick. We can't say that about this historical culture that no longer exists, and we only know like 0.1%, honestly, about what that culture really thought about any of this. And whether or not it's, they would come into 2020 and find this horrifically offensive or not, we can't honestly say that. So, but my bottom line always has been, most people, I'm not going to say every person, but most people come to the SCA, who, if they're white and they choose a non-white persona, do it from a standpoint of deep love and appreciation of the culture and an enthusiasm for the culture. And they try to avoid the, blackface, yellowface, redface kind of pitfalls that you get into where, well, it's historically accurate, so I'm going to make myself look like this. No, they look like a white person in this beautiful costume or, embracing this culture. I am not somebody that can say from that culture that is something that is offensive. So what I always say is, you're allowed to come into the SCA, and yes, you want to say recreate Korean court garb in the 13th century. You're super geeked out about that. Do it, but be prepared for somebody who is Korean to say, hang on, that's not appropriate for you to do that. And you've got to be ready for that, and you've got to be humble about it when it happens. So you always come from that standpoint of it is sure, you're coming at it from the best of intentions, but when someone comes to you and says that I have issues with this, be humble and be ready to hear them and be ready to adjust in deference to their feelings if they are from that culture. So that's my thing. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying be prepared and be ready and be humble about it. So
All right, we ready for the next question?
Yeah.
This one comes from Rowan.
Rowan.
What customs or customs across the kingdoms have proven the most challenging in the SCA goals of inclusivity?
I feel like I keep cheating and being like, there's not a specific thing. But there's not. I think the problem is that we are generally kind of reluctant to embrace change. And that's kind of a thing that gets thrown around a lot. But I think what people think is, I like this. I like this. And if you make this different, I might not like it anymore. So I don't want you to do that. That's not true, right? Other people have the right to like things too. We should be giving people opportunities to love the SCA the way that we do. That's what inclusivity is all about. And so some of those resistances are just coming from this like weird, like, we've always done it this way, or you're harshing my medieval buzz. How dare you bring these modern accoutrements? We are moving forward as a society, and we are giving people the tools that they need to be comfortable and to attend an event successfully, so that they can sleep and keep breathing, so that they can chill the insulin that they need to take, so that they can go to areas of the country where they may or may not be welcome because of what they look like, and they can be prepared for that. And they don't just show up and go, oh my God, this is awful. We are making changes to make life better for people. And the idea that we cling to these weird customs or traditions at the risk of making their lives worse, I think is just generally problematic. Someone who I respect a great deal has a phrase that she likes to use called basically honor tradition and respect people. I don't know who would say that in this group.
That's really good.
Did I just get fucking quoted at myself?
You're like, who's that? Oh, that's Helga?
That might need to go on a t-shirt or something.
It's true. It's a really good. Actually, good.
No, don't put that on a fucking t-shirt. I never want to see myself or one of my quotes on a t-shirt ever.
I'm gonna do it. I would like to point out, I called the merch thing to Araya like 3 months before it happened.
You use mundane name.
Oh fuck. Okay. Okay. So anyway,
how about another one is whenever you make anybody flip the camera off.
I almost added that one in there and realized that would be a really bad drinking game to have with me on a show, because I flip every, like, I think I flipped every guest off at some point in time.
How about this? My motto, other than actually ipsum lorem dolor sit amet, is fuck around and find out. So what you see is what you get here.
Oh my God. But yeah, no, we should absolutely be treasuring the health, safety, and wellness of our participants over but we've always done it this way. Because if you continue to scream about how you've always done it this way, there will not be a future where you will keep doing that. We will not continue to thrive.
The West Kingdom ceases to exist. It's always been done that way. We can't change that light bulb. Yes, absolutely.
It's your turn to answer, Miss Sassy.
I know, and I'm actually now I'm looking at the question. What customs across the kingdom? And I really have to just say, like, the West Kingdom is actually the best example of this, which is that we can't possibly change the way we're doing it because it's tradition. We've been doing that for 56 years. It's we can't possibly stop. And I think that's a huge challenge. That's a challenge I've encountered time and again in the SCA in the West. And as much as I love my kingdom, I do think that we're not the authority, we're not the arbiters of how to do things correctly. And we should look at how other kingdoms are doing things, because honestly, some of the newer kingdoms have better ideas about how to approach complex issues than the way the West has historically done them. Yeah, I can't name a specific thing other than to say the running up against the idea of tradition time and time again. It's a brick wall, and it's frustrating because we can change, we can grow. Just because it's always been done that way doesn't mean that it is the way to do it forever. It worked in 1966. Cool. Does it work in 2020? No. Then maybe we should talk about how we can change that. Helga?
So I'm gonna re-quote what I just got quoted is fucking respect people, honor traditions. Weird that I just got quoted at myself there, just so you know, a little bit freaky. Is I would say that any kingdom tradition that runs into we have to do this because we're honoring a dead idea is actually going to be the fault. So, and this rolls back to a psychology thing about fear of change. And this happens in every generational episode. And so each generation hangs on to something about this is the reason why we were the greatest generation. And like society wide, most people never mature past their peak in high school, amusingly enough, because that's when they hit their greatest achievement with the most freeness of like who they were. And so you see them carry those traits on into adulthood and everything else like that. The SCA is the same thing. And as long as we remember that, we can actually beat it. Is the stopping point for all of us and in creating inclusivity is when we start to fear the change, because then we're honoring a written tradition versus the people we're trying to include. We are trying to manipulate them into fitting into our box versus looking at what they need to make a bigger umbrella. And so that's what I'd say is it really is. We need to examine our own fears as kingdoms. What traditions do we keep out of fear for it changing versus understanding that maybe the next generation doesn't need that. We can still honor that tradition. We can 100% honor that tradition by adapting it to the next generation, to adapting it to a culture and everything else like that. This is where appropriation versus appreciation happens. I'm going to have to round this all out. Appropriation happens when we get too stubborn and we feel somebody is stealing something. Appreciation happens when we allow them to take the idea and make it into their own. And that's something that we as the SCA need to remember in each generational leap that we take. And that's how we continue to go through. So anytime somebody in a kingdom looks at it and says, well, we can't do that because of tradition, my little stubborn ass goes, really? And I think that everybody should do that. Because you can honor your ancestors without dying the same fucking way. So, there you go.
Oh, that's honor your ancestors without dying. Okay, yeah.
Next t-shirt quote, honor your ancestors without dying the same fucking way.
I'm literally like, wow. Okay. Okay.
I did hear in the background the mighty
lady
splashing
of the lake.
How is it Friday?
Yeah, fuck I know, right?
I was at the other side of the lake and lost track of time. I'm sorry that sticky note is going on the wall of the Lady of the Lake.
Yeah. Little do you know, Helga has an entire wall of Lady of the Lake post-its. 90% of them are about tacos, weirdly.
Oh, and Count Chocula. Count Chocula, I would like to know, is the center of all this. What movie star or artist would you be BFFs with?
Oh, that's good.
That is good. I got to think about that one.
I know, where did you come up with these questions?
Because tacos.
Yeah, there you go. Put that on the board, Helga.
Oh no, I would like to know, every time you see me like reaching over, that's just me applying the sticky note to the wall of the lake. Also, like I've got taco stickers all over my monitor. Anytime she like the taco with the little fucking rockets is like on one of my main monitors, so I can just always be like, it's a taco with rockets. I'm happier now.
All right, I super need someone else to go first on this one.
Which movie star or writer would I be
movie star
like?
famous person would be your BFF. Hillary Clinton and me would get super down. Probably also Michelle Obama, because we have the same birthday, so we have something in common. And Betty White, because I also have the same birthday as Betty White.
Yeah. I want to be BFF.
January 17th, motherfuckers. We're all super cool over here. But yeah, I'd say, okay, so somebody I'd really want to fucking hang out with though, and like literally just like chill the fuck out with, is since we can do Alive or Dead, I'm going with Carrie Fisher, because Carrie Fisher's rad and like literally my queen. Oh, and one other person, I get to pick like 5, right? Dolly Parton. There's my answer right there. Jolene, 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 Jolene. Yeah, fucking love Dolly.
Okay, there's your musical fucking episode you asked.
Yeah, there you go. We had Sassy sing, so
there we go. Now we're moving on past that idea. We're good. I'm gonna actually, amusingly enough, because Sassy, you brought this up, sharing a birthday is Bruce Lee. Is if I could be BFFs with that dude. So I read his stuff kind of almost like religiously. And I would love to sit down and talk with the man and exchange ideas, because he's where I base my romanticized ideas of the knightly virtues out of. Because how he speaks about the martial arts and how he speaks out of understanding where you are in any moment in time, and that's how you apply yourself to the universe, was one of the foundations to me becoming a peer overall. And so I'm just going to say that, like, if I could be BFFs with that man, I would love that, because that would be some amazing coffee talks. And also, I'm sorry, I had to put my glasses on because my eyes started hurting. So now you guys get like librarian danger Muppet.
Librarian danger Muppet.
Yeah, you get that. Like, no.
Everyone tell her how good her glasses look.
I feel like I look like a big dork all the time.
No, you
No,
look
girl.
amazing.
Now, here's the thing. Glasses are push-up bras for the face. And if I'd be wearing glasses right now, normally I wear glasses 99.9% of the time, except for when I'm in garb and then I'm in contacts because I'm blind as a bat. But I love my glasses, and I will never, ever, ever get LASIK ever. Even though my doctor, every time I go in, is always like, you're a perfect candidate for LASIK. And I'm like, I like my glasses. Fuck you, no.
Oh, and like I'm brand new to glasses, and I have a really low prescription. I'm just farsighted, but also I've got an astigmatism in my eye. So the ring light, that's the reason why I'm getting the migraines after the show, is because my left eye fractures all my light real bad. And like my doctor even told me, he's like, this would be the reason why like you're having some major issues fighting, is because this eye does not process light correctly.
That's why. Okay. And astigmatism is really hard to correct with contacts. So yeah.
Well, and they were just like, your prescription's too low. And also I'm not nearsighted. If I was nearsighted, they would give me contacts, but I'm not nearsighted. I'm fucking farsighted.
You weirdo.
Bullshit.
All right. Let's get back to the questions at hand. Our beautiful guest, please answer this question.
Oh, okay. So I have 2. I came up with 2. One is Nick Offerman, because he's fucking hilarious, like in every role he plays, and also in like every interview I've seen him in. And I just really want to sit with him and drink with him and just fucking hang out. And the other is Allie Wong, who is a writer on Fresh Off the Boat and also a stand-up comedian, who has this amazing way of like having the social commentary of like whatever she's talking about, right? Because the things she does are very much a social commentary on a lot of different topics, right? But she's so fucking funny, and she's so real and honest and so outside of expectation. Like, you expect her to be quiet, or you expect her to be more demure, and she is just 100%. She gives 0 fucks ever about any of that bullshit. Literally, if you watch her stand-up specials, she's like yanking up her dress to like tell a joke properly and like constantly like humping the floor and stuff. She's so fucking funny. I love her.
Hang out with a girl who humps the floor.
So those are my two.
I gotta look her up now. Also, I want to mention Dolly Parton randomly. So I was all excited about Michelle Obama and Betty White both had the same birthday as me. Dolly Parton, turns out, has a birthday 2 days later. Capricorns represent. Fuck you all. Coolest people ever. So
I'm just gonna librarian over the top of my glass.
okay, girl, because you can, but also name a cooler person who's in a Capricorn. Just, try me. All right, maybe Carrie.
I feel so like, and like I love people in glasses, and then I'm like wearing my glasses. I'm like,
You've got good glasses. Just stop being weird about it. Okay, let's move on to the next question.
oh, speaking of which, everybody asked about my snowflake chain. Here it is. It and my veil are having a love fest on the backside of my head. I would like to note that it is, they have mated and become one. I cannot take this chain off without taking my veil off. And so I am not stripping on camera. This chain is just staying. Also, the beautiful woman who made it did actually say that it was going to be painful for you to wear it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, in the note. I have the note.
Yeah, it might be a little ouchy.
Yeah.
All right. Let us move on to the next question. We've only got two more, maybe three more questions. We can do all of these.
We're actually cranking through the evening.
This is our Viscountess Sophia of the West Kingdom. What underrepresented culture would you love to see highlighted by a reigning couple, assuming it was well done and not appropriative?
So my heart wants Ethiopian, right? Because that's my main persona.
I really want to know what Ethiopia consists of because I don't know anything about it. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And like the food. Like I am very food motivated. And like I am so about the food for it. I also think Korean would be really cool to see. And like we've just had a reign kind of explore Inez and Seto when they reigned here. They explored like two different time periods when they did it. So when they were prince and princess, they personally played one way, and then they when they stepped up did kind of this Japanese oriented reign, and they did it really well. Like it was tremendously well researched. They had a whole team of people. There were all kinds of classes. They were able to give a platform to people whose primary research was in that cult. Like it was incredibly well done, and I think it can very easily be used as a blueprint on how to do this well and how to do this in a way that's not problematic. People really liked it. Like people were much more engaged, I think, in some of the more tedious aspects that you kind of get used to doing in a rote way, because there was something very fresh and new about it. So I would love to see either an Ethiopian reign or a Korean reign, because that would be really, really cool.
Helga?
Well, one, Ethiopian food is the fucking bomb.
We have a
Amazing.
huge Ethiopian community in the South Bay. And yeah, it is a definite.
Best part is actually traditional Ethiopian food is gluten-free. So if I call ahead, I can actually get all the fucking spongy bread as gluten-free, and I can actually eat like everything. And it makes me really fucking happy because I don't need to like scroll through the damn menu to be like, what is my dumbass allowed to eat?
Yeah. He's new to the gluten-free.
Yeah, I just got diagnosed celiac. This is bullshit.
Yeah. It's fun.
I miss dark beer so hard.
You know what though? There are many other non-gluten-y things that are.
Oh yeah, me and my drinker over here are making love.
Yeah.
So one, I would love to see an actual Scythian reign, like hardcore, well done, like down to all the fiddly bits Scythian reign. Same with Mongol, actually. To see a nomadic, basically any of the nomadic tribes, because they wore their wealth. all wealth must be able to be picked up, packed on your horse, or packed on your person. Like that was the idea of that. Like you didn't have a place that you stored your wealth. You better wear that shit. And so seeing some of those reigns, I think would be really cool, because right now we're doing a lot of Norse, we're doing a lot of like 14th century, we're doing a lot of German reigns. We're starting to see the Japanese reigns come out, which I think are amazing.
We've had a couple of principality reigns that were Japanese that were really good. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think seeing some of the more nomadic cultures also be represented would be really cool, because there's a lot of bling to be had. There's a lot of work in representing it properly. But I think that would be an amazing thing to see on throne and well done.
Mm-hmm. I just got a message from my boyfriend that said Mongolian. So if I'm ever reigning, apparently we're going to be doing Mongolian. But Mongolian, when I first started, the Mongols were a fringy group that were very, very represented in Sinagua. So I would love to see that come back. And the Mongol culture is so cool. It really is. It's super cool. Scythian is really cool. Scythian is one of those things where we don't really know a lot about their genetic makeup, but we know the areas that they were involved in, and so we can extrapolate on that.
We know they pissed off the Greeks real well.
Yeah, but at a certain point, a lot of people pissed off the Greeks. But Scythian would be really cool. I am all for anything and everything that is well done and respectful. If it falls within that, up to 1600 CE time period, and you can document the shit out of it, I will embrace it. And I will be team player number one. I would love to see anything and everything. I'm not completely wedded to the ideal of, it has to be high medieval European, 15th century French, that's beautiful and wonderful, and I can get super geeked out about it, but I can also get super geeked out about, 8th century Egyptian, where it's all, okay, I'm drunk enough now that I'm absolutely blanking on terms. But I could get into it. I could get into that. I can get into Indian, 16th century Indian. I could get into that. I could get into whatever it is. Just set me up. Just tell me what it is. Wind me up and let me go. I'm completely into it. I embrace it. I don't care. I am excited if you're excited. That's really my thing. As long as it's respectful, as long as it's like something everybody is like completely enthusiastic about, you wind me up and let me go. Helga?
I have a very weird mini soapbox about this.
What? Here
is my mini soapbox. So everybody, I'll teeter-totter on this, just pretend I'm in heels and being real sassy. Is that a lot of these other underrepresented cultures are underrepresented because we saw them as heathenistic, and they were marketed that way. The Mongols, seen as heathenistic, they were marketed that way. And one of the things that I would love to see them being represented as, and represented in a much broader fashion as, is the fact that they weren't. At some point, they were on the losing end of written history, and we lost a lot of the reasons why their culture was actually dominant for hundreds of years. And so that's one of the things to look at when you're doing an underrepresented culture, is that it's going to require you digging through all the the fantasized ideals of how these people were the bad people, or they were uncultured, or they were too savage, or anything else like that, versus these cultures have beautiful, rich histories that have died to a whitewashed idea of what history should be.
Honestly, jumping on that, closely related, the idea of documentation, right? Documentation, as we see it, doesn't exist in the same way in other cultures. There are different traditions, there's oral histories, and also many of those cultures have had their histories destroyed intentionally because the victors of those wars were like, who gives a fuck? We are not recording any of this shit. Or if they do record it, it was like, all right, I just said, it's just recorded in such a way that is negative for the culture. Which, you know, it's a problem sometimes in the SCA when people cannot provide the right type of documentation. My name is not registered because there were no last names in the time period that my persona is in the Ethiopian Empire. They didn't do last names. And I cannot just register the first, and I cannot provide documentation for the last because it didn't exist. So I took a more modern but still Amharic based word. So yeah, I mean, I think we need to adjust the way we examine history through that lens, through a much more critical lens. And I think we need to expand what we consider documentation and what we consider adequate documentation.
Agreed. Also, I'm gonna just drink my little mini soapbox.
I'll drink.
I have to drink too. Crap. Okay.
All right, are we ready for the next question?
Yeah, I believe that is yours.
The next one comes from Sammy. What is your favorite unintentionally erotic fruit to eat?
Fruit or vegetable, or I mean root thing if you want. I don't know.
Technically counts as a vegetable.
Intentionally erotic. So I've never like
unintentionally erotic.
Unintentionally.
Unintentionally erotic. Oh Jesus. Like so bananas and peaches are pretty fucking obvious, right? Like I can't go with that. I'm just gonna be fucking weird and go with papaya because I've watched like people do really disgusting things to papaya that I was super into.
I like how you're like, you're disgusting whore. Keep going.
I know, basically. Because yeah, like I'm not gonna like get like a turnip and be like, hey. Like that's just not gonna.
I mean, anybody can make anything dirty if they try hard enough, right? Like,
no.
I've seen a lot of people try really hard to make it dirty.
No. I mean, like, there's certain things where, like, I guess if it was like a really like wet fruit, it could be hot, but it could also be really gross because, like, I'm not trying to hear you get your like ASMR popping when like we're like that's gross. I'm not into that. Don't do that.
Okay, I honestly so I never did this unintentionally erotically eating of a fruit, but someone I know who shall not be named and is no one I am currently associated with, so don't try guessing, decided that figs were erotic and wanted to eat them erotically, and I was like, this is literally my face. So I really say like anybody can try to turn any fruit erotic. I have never been accused of eating any fruit erotically because I'm not a fruit person, actually. I don't eat fruit a lot. I like vegetables and I typically eat them in like, dishes and never like, I'm gonna like that kind of bullshit. No. But yeah, trying to eat a fig erotically was literally a what the actual fuck are you even doing? Mom.
I just got yelled at for not mentioning grapefruit. If you know the background as to why the grapefruit is a thing.
I'm sorry. If you have not looked up grapefruit blowjob, everybody's challenge is to go look up that video. You just
okay, so if we're talking videos, Agnes actually said in the chat, reminded me of turnips and Blackadder. You know, a turnip that looks like a thingy is a thing in Blackadder. So yeah, but it's not. I mean, I guess unintentionally, you know, root vegetables looking kind of phallic. Yeah, okay, I'll go with that.
So how far are we going with this? Because like I really like fruit, but I've never seen a fruit I wanted to fuck. So like,
Yeah.
like
I mean, I really like cucumbers. I really do, but I cut them into little discs first. Like they're in my gin and tonic right now. If you wanted to, you know, nobody wants me to cut a penis into discs.
right, they're not in danger.
Like, no, that's a no.
No one's ever like come up and been like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Cucumber."
I'm all just like, oh, look at this cucumber. Ah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, nobody says that. Although cucumbers are delicious, though. My God, they're so good.
Now I'm just gonna like find random vegetables and just eat them seductively at people. Like scoop up like scalloped potatoes and like put like one here and be like,
Or Carius is like, she is furious.
I'm sorry, scalloped potatoes as nipple shields is like that's it. The show is over. We're done. We have just wrecked the internet. It's over.
All right. Helga, what's your answer?
I am not allowed to eat cucumbers in public after fighting.
Because cucumbers are delicious.
No, cucumbers are delicious, but also like after I'm done fighting, I'll like put a little salt on them, and then I'll eat the cucumber. And it's like one of like the European cucumbers, so it's a little long and like
The English cucumber. The English cucumber. That goes
English
under this
cucumber.
leg.
Like, you always stick the English cucumber. Don't get
Yeah,
the
not
American
the what's the other one? The the ones that are these tiny.
Oh, the pickling cucumbers.
No, well, okay, maybe, but Persian cucumber.
Yeah, okay. Go with the English fucking cucumber, okay? Like, you want some goddamn length. However, I will, like, put salt on them, but then I'll lick the salt off, and then I will take, like, a relatively large bite off the cucumber. And so it's very, apparently, erotic right until I'm like, HOW! like I'm sorry, let me like lick the salt off this and then like stick fucking 6 inches of this shit in my mouth, and then I'm gonna be like nom 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 nom. But
honestly, Helga, that wasn't intentional.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with I'm not allowed to eat cucumbers in public because
I'm just saying that was unintentional. I don't believe it for a second.
Oh, I didn't mean to like eat it like in any erotic way. I was just like, I was hungry and I wanted the salt first, so I just licked the salt off, and then I was like, oh, and then cucumber, and like there we go. However, one of the things that I will do occasionally is if I realize that people are like kind of like, what's going on over there? I'll be like, I'm sorry, let me sensually lick this. I'm gonna make direct eye contact with you, and then I'm gonna close my teeth together. And if you are still turned on, you might be my type of fucked up.
I mean, if you make it past that like test.
Yeah. Also, I think that was actually, I'm not sure if that was phrasing or not. That might just be so much awkward that we should drink.
I mean, honestly, at some point, like awkward comes around and makes it into phrasing, right?
I just can't believe I actually found a person that's like, you looking real thick, Mr. Cucumber.
Yeah, no, actually, I'm sorry. Cucumbers and me get along, okay?
But
I'm going to say that with my librarian glasses on, so you can't even fucking shame me.
Wait, no, I think you can. What the fuck was that?
Okay, Carius has sound effects, and this is fucking new, okay?
Nobody warned me about this thing.
Nobody warned me about sound effects here.
Trying to like suck the cucumber out of my there we go. Straw.
all right, so that one was phrasing, and I'm gonna call that one.
Yeah, I'm calling
that was intentional, but sure, you can call phrasing.
All right, we ready for the next question?
Yes, I am so ready. My body is ready. By this point, we're not phrasing. We are full on, and Sassy is just fuck it.
I feel like I'm like Schrodinger's drunk right now because I haven't stood up, right? And you're not really
you won't know how drunk you are until you stand up.
stand up and be like, well played, Gravity. You got me. Like, but if you don't do that, you're okay.
Yeah.
So
Same.
I'm okay.
All right. So this is from Anne. What is the SCA outfit you wear when you need to feel your sassiest, and why?
So I really like my Ethiopian because it's unique and it's all white, so it's very like you stand out a lot. It's very cool. I do really like 14th century. And I could make up like some shit about how like, coat hardies are, what a beautiful style to make and all that. But like, let's be real. I just really like the way that my boobs look in them. So I lean in on that pretty hard. But I mean, I have a lot of garb. And I'm one of those people that kind of hyper focuses on one or two things and then wears it until I'm like, and now I'm done. And then I move on to another thing. And then I hyper focus on that. So like I have felt really good in a lot of different kinds of garb. Right now, 14th century is probably my most like go-to because, spoiler alert, Ethiopian garb does not do well with cold weather. So I would just be fucking frozen all of the time.
I'm all about seasonal costumes. You kind of have to be.
Yeah. Actually, my fanciest kit is still from when I did Norse, because I started with Norse. And so like my active fanciest kit with like herringbone wool and like fully kitted out. I have all of the bling. And I don't do much Norse anymore. So I'm just kind of like, oh, all right. But it's in my back pocket.
Tell me more about your herringbone wool.
Is this the sexy part?
This is the sexy part for Tulia.
Well, it's a diamond weave on top and then the herringbone blue. It's real good. I finished all them scenes, girl. I finished everyone.
Girl, okay. Sorry, we had a moment. I'm sorry I had a moment with your wife, Helga.
I would like to note Polly.
Helga, would you like to answer the question?
Yeah, okay, I'll totally answer that question. I'm still kind of stuck on face fucking a cucumber. So
because I'm sure you have like 40 people messaging you like, I would watch you eat a cucumber. I'll be in my bunk.
I've actually only had like 2 people message me during the show. I have gotten a very, very fantastic bra picture.
Share with the class for fuck's sake, guys.
Oh hell no! Consent is a thing. You never share photos unless you have consent.
The people that are sharing should share with the class.
Ula, oh my god. I'm sorry, I would like to note that Ula just fucking
amazing bra, by the way. Ula.
Holy shit.
I love you, man.
I'm sorry for the audience. You could not see what we just saw. It was a thing.
It was spiritual. It was amazing. If I could,
it was beautiful.
My costume right now and reciprocate, I would.
I had to rip my glasses off my face over that. Okay, just fucking.
I'm just
holy
saying.
Shit! This is the reason why you joined the Between Two Peers server, right there. If you're not a part of it, you don't get to be a part of that.
Well, consent is
consent. Consent is a thing.
Also, not only Helga appreciates bra shots, because also I'm in the market for like a good bra. Like, if you got a great bra, like fucking kick down. I need to know.
Yeah. And I will say that any good bra you send Tulia is a blessing to me. Okay, back to the questions now.
The question.
Super sassy. What's the SCA outfit you feel like when you need to be the sassiest? Amusingly enough, leather pants and like the frilly German shirt with we have one that is cut down to like the bottom of my bust line. And so I will just wrap my ass in leather and then put on that shirt and a really good push-up bra and just be like, these are my tits. These are my ass. These are my biceps, and I throw a better motherfucking flat snap than you do. So, they're sassy for you.
I just got a text message. I'm not naming names, but I'm excited. I got a text message. Fuck you. I got a text message. Oh God, that's a really good one. That is a really good bra.
So Miss Sassy, your answer to that?
So my answer is whatever the fuck I'm wearing, bitches. Like, look, I don't step outside the tent or my house without like feeling 100% like this is what I am going to be out in the world looking like. I want to feel fierce. I want to feel like the queen. I want to be amazing. So, and it extends also on this show. If I haven't worn it on this show, it is not a thing that I feel sexy and badass in. But if we're talking about like the most, like the thing that I walk out and I'm just like, I'm gonna walk out. What really helps me is not necessarily a particular costume. It is the entire visage of the costume. I've got to have my hair and my head and my jewelry all in play. And I walk out feeling like a fucking badass. It doesn't matter what era, what period, what culture. If I feel complete, I step outside and I look complete. There have been a handful of times where I've stepped outside and I did not feel complete. And there are photographs that we have deleted and killed, nuked it from orbit. But mostly, yeah. I mean, if I'm 14th century, I'm wearing my wimple and I feel sexy as fuck in my wimple. God, I feel so sexy in my wimple. Like people are like, the wimple? Oh God, it's like, look like a nun. And I'm like, bitch, I feel powerful and sexy in my wimple. Like, if I'm in Slavic, I've got my cool ass, danglies, my temple rings from Fairy Tales Chest on Etsy. If you look them up. I love these. These are my favorites. I have many, many, many temple rings. And these are the ones I go time and time again. I wear these because I feel so powerful and so cool in them. And I waggle my head and they make jangly noises and they're cool. I wear my tiara. Oh God, it's all about the tiara. Like, just put my fucking tiara on my head and I look fabulous. Like, it's kind of not a specific thing. It's not a specific outfit. It is an elements of many different outfits where I feel complete and I feel fabulous. Zahra.
So I'm like super this pandemic. Like, I never thought I would say this, but I am fucking tired of being comfortable. Like, I'm in my comfy clothes round the clock. It is just like I'm over it. And every time I get to like dress up, like, this is not how I look. Like, if you get me on any day of the week and you're like, send me a selfie, I'm like, no, I look like I slap box raccoons for a living. I'm not sending you a fucking selfie right now. I have to prep this. Like, I'm a gremlin 90% of the time.
Right? Me too.
Just getting to dress up a little bit. And like, even if I'm in my living room, right? But like, just being able to like dress up a little bit and I get to wear like a coronet where if I headbutt someone, they'll get impaled and that makes me feel good. So like anything at this point that is outside of like the norm, outside of the like comfy clothes and gets me like dressing up, I think is like a really like sassy, confident moment.
And somebody in the comments was like, you're too sexy for your wimple. And I'm like, actually, now that I think about it, I feel the sexiest in my wimple. When I'm doing 14th century and I'm in my wimple and veil, I feel so goddamn sexy. I feel so empowered. It is honestly for me the most covered that I am in any costume in the SCA. And I feel so sexy and empowered in it. And also you get to find out A, the nun fetishists, and B, the ones who are super weirded out about nuns.
People with Catholic trauma.
Anyways. So should we go to the last question that we've got? Because we didn't get any questions in the YouTube chat because I think people were having such a good time they couldn't.
Is this a moment where we just tell people like, look, if you want more questions, you got to submit them?
I mean, well, honestly, we've answered how many? 13, 14, almost 14 questions now, which is
we can go to the last question and we'll see if somebody gives us something sassy for the
yeah.
end.
You give us a really good question in the chat on YouTube. We will answer, but this is going to be our last question.
I'm gonna leave it to is it your
Oh,
turn?
that's me. No,
Yeah.
no, it's you, hey, girl. It's you.
Oh, it is. So
It
this
is.
one comes from John the Bear Killer. Are you ready? Because he said he was gonna fuck you up.
Oh yeah, he actually gave all three of us the shitty question.
Yeah.
It's
All
not
right.
just you.
All right. I'm ready.
What peerage do you aspire to, or what peerage can or should be the most active in sustaining a society? So is it and or?
Ah.
Yeah. Asshole.
All right. Christ. So I hadn't thought like this is gonna sound shitty. I'm pretty new, right? I've been in the SCA for 4 years. I really hadn't like thought a lot about the idea of peerage as a realistic like thing for me, right?
Oh,
Like
we should mention you're not you aren't a peer.
no, I'm not a peer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I have like I'm an apprentice and I'm a protege and I'm a little drunk, and I do feel like Pelican seems like the one that is most realistic for the type of work that I do in society. But like when we talk about peerage's invisibility, I think it's hard to argue with the idea that people come to the SCA and they don't know what a pelican is, and they don't know what a laurel is, and they don't know what a mod is, but they do know what a knight is. So there is a visibility there that doesn't exist in the other peerage's two outside components. But I don't want to put all the responsibility on the knights to like hold up being like, this is what the SCA should be. Oh my god, this is awful.
All right. It's super loaded. Super loaded.
This is awful. I thought he was just gonna ask me some like dumb thing. Oh my god.
Well, no, it's bear killer. So
can I cheat and be like royal peers?
that would be my answer, but
Royal
we'll get to
peers,
that
because
in a minute.
everyone looks up to the king and queen and they see what they're doing and they lead the kingdom. They have the most responsibility at any given time of anyone in the kingdom, and they have powers that other peerages don't have. Royal peers, done. That's so rough.
No, go Helga.
I was the one that answered asked the question. You get to answer first.
Oh, fuck off. Okay. No, I'm gonna go with fuck it. I'll go with royal peer. I'm a laurel. That was the only peerage I really fucking wanted. The second at a distance peerage that I could possibly want, royal peerage. It sounds rad. I would love to reign. I think it would be fun. I think it would be just a lot of cool shit, you know? So, and that just gives you a royal peerage after the end of that. I don't want to be a pelican because I am one of these weirdos that's like the shit that I do is literally the least I can do, and I'm having fun while I'm doing it. So if that ever qualifies me for a pelican, like, Jesus Christ, what are your standards? And I never would think of myself as somebody who would, about me, Helga, about me. If anybody is all like, oh, let's give Tulia a pelican, I'm like, what are your standards? Because my standards are, I'm just showing up and having good time and making sure other people have a good time. You want to give me a peerage for that? Like, that's the least I could possibly do.
That's how I got my pelican.
No, you got your pelican for telling people to fuck off.
Yeah, which I was showing up and having a good time.
Yeah, but that was the part you don't talk about. But what I'm trying to say is, like, I feel like the pelican, like, for me, is just if somebody like is all, we should give you a pelican. It's literally like, Why? Because I got all the other awards? You know, I'm not doing anything special. I'm just showing up and having a good time. And I'm happy if other people have a good time. I don't want a peerage out of that. That is not my game. And that is not my aim. And Jesus Christ, do not give me anything for that, because literally I'm trying to make other people have a good time. It's not about me. So other people, though, who get pelicans, and that is not to diminish people who are on the pelican path and in service path or have pelicans, who are actually trying, you know, against all of us motherfuckers who show up every day and are just like, woohoo, pew pew, you know, doing great things above and beyond. So that is why I am not like, I am not pelican, because I'm just here for a good time. And if you're literally scraping the bottom of the barrel and my name comes up, like, whoa, Jesus, ew, gross. No, don't do that. I am not that person. But yeah, I think a royal peerage would be pretty rad, because, you know, yeah. Helga.
So fuck you, Bear Killer, for this question. So I'm a knight, I'm a pelican, and I'm a royal peer. And so peerage that I aspire to is actually both of the remaining peerages is that I would love to be I would love to get over my own fear about doing documentation and eventually seek a laurel. Like, and I would like, that's actually something that I'll openly say, is that when I decide to turn that on, it's going to be going after the accolade of like, I want to be good enough to be recognized. And I'll like, you can fucking quote me around the internet and say that, like, I don't want to accidentally be a laurel. Like, if I go after that shit, I'm writing papers on purpose. Like, that's how that is. I'm updating my techniques on purpose. That's how that fucking is. And Brian is not wearing a shirt. I would like to note that. He just showed up in the background of everything.
It's your nipples, Brian.
I would like to note that Brian is white enough that the green screen is picking him up. Like, bitch needs a tan. So, and eventually one of the things that I would like to do, and this is meant to no insult of the order, is that when I become unable to heavy fight, which is something that will eventually happen, I have a TBI, and I have something that lives in my head. His name is Stewie. That eventually I'll be taken off the heavy field, because I can't take, like, at some point a neurologist will tell me you are never allowed to heavy fight again. And at that point I will seek becoming a mod, because it is a martial field that I respect, and that I believe that it is another way to carry prowess and competition. In that way, it will be a new avenue. I enjoy rapier fighting so much. I rapier fought before I heavy fought, and so it'll be like rejoining something for me. It's just right now I can't split my time between the two of them, and so that is like legitimately humbly saying, when I can no longer heavy fight, I wish to become somebody that is acceptable upon the rapier field and that gains enough knowledge to be recognized there. And so it is said in the most humble / awkward way ever of that's where I wish to go to. Because right now I don't have the time to invest in both. And I know that I am limited in heavy fighting anyways. And so I'm currently hyper focusing there. And so hopefully I didn't stick my foot in my mouth there real hard. And I really worry that I did.
I feel like I stuck my foot in my mouth when I was like, I show up and have a good time. And I have, somebody who I greatly esteem, who is shortly to become a pelican, say, that's what I do. And I was like, yeah, but you do it way more extensively than I do. It's not just about showing up and having a good time. It's about putting in the time and energy to run events and to foster new people and old people, and to make the SCA game a thing that actually functions. And that is not what I do. So you know who you are. That's what separates us, and me showing up and having a good time and being like, whatever, pew pew, and you being a badass pelican. So.
I just showed up and did what I did, and that's how I earned a pelican.
Yeah, I think anybody who would ever offer me a pelican would just be like, are you brain damaged because
I think you do yourself I think you do yourself a disservice and accidentally do the accolade a disservice in that process by over humilifying yourself into emotional abuse, actually. And you and I can have a conversation.
we will have that conversation later.
We can have that conversation offline when you're not in recording.
And I will argue you down every time.
Oh no, 100%. I'm gonna beat you on this one.
Oh, I'm gonna beat you.
Guaranteed. I will put a book or a drink of choice on this that I'll win this one.
No.
And it's recorded.
Oh.
So the other thing is, Bear Killer, go fuck yourself. I'm gonna answer the second part of this question. What peerage can or should be the most active in sustaining the society? And I'm 100% going to throw the knights under the bus. I'm gonna also throw the mods under the bus on this. They are the two most visible peerages. End of story. And the reason why for this is not the white belt in the chain. It is we are the gladiators of the society. And bread in circuses is a real thing. And it is a very real thing. And without the show, people stop showing up. And where I think the arts and sciences and the service community can continue to survive in a minute fashion or like a smaller, more refined fashion, without literally the blood sport, which counts as both the heavy fighters and the mods. I'm going to put those both together. They're the sport of it. They're the football teams. They're the like crowd cheering, like groups of our individuals within this society. So they're the reasons why we show up, we watch them and we go, cool, that's great. Now I'm going to go over here and weave while you're doing your weird stick thing or your weird pokey thing. We're just going to do this. And it's like, it's fun to watch. And so that's one of the things that we have to remember, and not taking away anything from those peerages, but we end up being the most visible of them, which places the larger burden. Because we're easily spottable. We're easily recognizable. When you are a fighter, you're walking through an entire field in armor. When you walk back to your camp, you're doing it in armor. Both our pelicans and our laurels are just walking around in garb. You actually have to actively look for medallions or rings or tattoos or anything else like that. And so they're what we consider the hidden peerage. And so what I'm going to say is the backbone of the visibility of our society remains on all of our fighting culture. And that puts our fighting culture in a place where they must be the best of us at all times. They must understand humility to continue to build our society in that process of, you can't be like, oh, I'm just a stick jock and like I got good some point. Suck it the fuck up, dude. You're actually a knight or you're a mod or anything else like that, which means you must exemplify and be willing to exact those virtues at any point in time. And when you fuck up, you must do it publicly and you must own it publicly at any moment in time, because you will be judged publicly. You are a total part of the court of popular opinion. And if you are not ready for that, step the fuck off. And it is really hard and it's a very heavy burden to bear. And I wish that the other peerages had that. And they suffer from different faults. They suffer from different things that they are judged on harsher than the peerage and then the martial peerages are. And those are a very heavy burden to bear on that. But the visibility itself falls on our fighting in both the martial and the rapier, and they must carry it and they must continue to do it. And when we are going to make a cultural change, they must lead those cultural changes. They don't get to sit on the sidelines and just say, oh, I'm just here to throw a stick. Nope. Step the fuck up. Step the fuck up every time, because when you don't, the society will continue to fight it. When our fighting culture follows it, then the entire society changes very quickly. And that's a very weird thing to carry. All peerages are equal, but where we carry the burdens are different, and we must always remember that.
I think that counts as a soapbox.
That does count as a soapbox, because I have like where each peerage carries its burden. And I just want to be clear that like the laurels carry the franchise burden flat out. And that is a very hard burden to carry, because they get a lot of hate over some bullshit things that aren't even theirs. And I feel for every laurel out there. Like, I almost fear being a laurel because of the weird hate around being a laurel that there is. And so what I would say is just, I think that like publicly the martial peerages carry it almost emotionally, like the laurels and pells carry it, and that's a very hard distinction, and we war over it all the time. So there's my weird soapbox. Please, God, tell me we have a sassy question to close.
I think
It's a
that was the
really
last
good-
question. That was the last question.
Can we pick a sassy one to close on? Because that was like some heavy bullshit there.
Does anybody have a sassy question?
We have
Chat.
Lux, and we also have one for. Oh, we have one from Sierra. So one is about flirting, and one's about a mission that you've been sent on.
Well,
All right, let's go with. We're gonna close with like the flirt one. Okay, this one's from Lux. Your favorite form of flirtation when flirting with somebody and when being flirted with.
wait, what?
Favorite form of flirtation.
Favorite form of flirtation. Okay.
So we kind of like we've had a like conversation about flirting in the server. And like I don't feel like I'm very actively aware of what I do when I flirt. Like my brain is just like, yes, that person, indicate interest. And I'm super blunt. Like I am not subtle whatsoever. So honestly, I really like cooking for people, and I really like getting people things. Like I am very much like, one of my love languages is very much gift giving, and I'm very like, I got you this thing, or like I'm gonna give you this food, or like that's what I tend to do. And then being flirted with, I don't know. I have to kind of think about that one. I feel like I also enjoy when people get me things, but like I am the last person who will like acknowledge that someone is flirting with me. I'm like, no. Like this is a friendship French kiss. That's what this is. I don't
There's so many of those. Weird.
like I just refuse to acknowledge that like this is happening. So I need like a verbal like I'm into you in order for me to even register it enough to like move it into that mental category. So yeah, no, I think so. No, I was about to say something that was going to take this to a soapbox, and we want to be light, so I'm not going to do that.
I mean, we can go all night if you want.
Okay, so I would also like to note, like, weird, like, end of night stuff. You can't take your glasses and put them above your cornet. It doesn't work that way. That's how you break your frames.
Yeah, no, don't do that. So I'm not going to soapbox on this. I'm going to stop there, I think. Yes.
So I have two. Well, okay. So I used to say tall and weird was my type. And, you know, when you're 4'11", everybody is taller than you. So that's a pretty broad category. And most of the people I associate with are weird. So you fall into that category. But it's really be smart and funny. And I'm not saying be one or the other, because one or the other doesn't necessarily really work. But be smart and funny. And I don't care if you're really flirting with me. I am a very adept flirt, but just be smart and funny, and you've got my attention. That's mine.
So mine. My favorite form of flirt is a good flat snap. Like, okay, Carrie is not allowed to run the soundboard anymore. We had dead sound for like 12 minutes of the show, and now we have sound effects. And this is worrying me. But like my favorite form of flirtation is actually direct communication. Like I'm really into like the savage flirtation where you're like you get a little handsy, but that also involves consent, because don't fucking touch me without consent. After the consent though, it's like game the fuck on. Also, I realize that I'm the most awkward flirt on the planet, and so like I naturally flirt a lot. Like I am naturally verbose and want to make somebody feel sexy in their own skin and want to make somebody feel worthy of being seen and everything else like that. And culturally, because we don't do that as a group, like a lot of people will take that as like, oh, you would like me in your bed, and I'm like, No, I think you're an amazing human being, and I'm telling you this. It doesn't mean we need to fuck over it. But like, I want to tell you that you're sexy and worthy, and like, fuck yes, go flirt with that guy over there that you think is hot as fuck. Like, how can I wind you up to the point where you can go do this? And so I think that like my favorite form of flirt is like direct communication, actually, because like where like I can be subtle and I can be like hey and everything else like that. Normally, I'm winding up people for other experiences where I'm like, you're not bold enough to get yourself wound up to go do this thing, so I'm just gonna be here as like your flirt dummy for a little while, and then like you're gonna get wound up enough to be like, ha, I want to go chase that dude at the bar, and I'm gonna be like, fly, be free, little creature. Like, you are now wound up enough to go chase that dick or chase that, like really hot chick. Because I almost said the V word on this show, and then I feel like that's slightly demeaning versus dick is not, which I might need to assess. But
okay, whatever.
Yeah, I know, seriously. But either way, and so like when I'm flirting with people and they flirt back, all of a sudden I'm like, are you talking to me? Like, what the fuck is going on here? And so my favorite form of flirting is when like people are like, okay, so we're gonna cut the chase here. I'd really like to bang. Like, yeah, that works. Let's go. Like, so
Direct communication is just super hot. Like,
direct communication is really hot.
Like, don't make me wonder, because if I have to wonder, I'm always just gonna err on the side of like, nah.
I'm gonna err on the side of you're being nice. Like, as the chick that's built like a draft horse and also has a lot of personality, I'm gonna err on the side of caution that you're like being slightly nice to me because you might be afraid that I'd choke you out or something like that. Like, that's what I'm going to assume. So
read other options. Who knows?
Yeah. There's that.
No, I really do think that people are not willing enough to kind of like put where their boundaries are with people. And so like I'm trying to be cognizant of that. Like when people are flirting, like I want to make sure that they're making their boundaries clear and that like I'm not taking something in a spirit that they don't mean it. Because that would just kind of suck, right? Like that's not fair to them. But I do think like in general, we should all be very, very clear about like, these are my boundaries. And I'm willing to make this conversation a little bit awkward to preserve those boundaries because we should not trade being heard for feeling safe.
Mic drop of the night.
I was trying to keep it light.
Like, fuck you. I'm out of drink. I can't even drink to that. Like, I'm not willing to drink straight gin. I don't like you enough to drink straight gin.
I like you enough to drink straight gin.
Gin to me is like, all right, forest preserve. I'm just gonna lick this tree. Awesome, cool. Like
I thought that way too until I realized it was the only alcohol that didn't give me a migraine. Have to learn to like it.
Tragedy.
Yeah.
Yep. So with that, shall I wrap up the show? Since we've had the black and white episode where people got to like assume what we were talking about, and I did like a little happy dance.
What was that?
Like
what black and white episode was that?
The first 12 minutes of this episode.
Oh, the black and okay. I was interpreting black and white as a completely different thing. Sorry. All
right. So with that, I'm gonna wrap up the show. Zahra, would you like to give a shout out?
So I am gonna toot toot. So I do a show called This Week in DEI every Wednesday, and we do classes and stuff. It's on the SCA DEI page. I don't curse nearly as much. I host other people and they teach, or I teach some of the DEI classes. And it is useful if you have questions of the DEI variety, and it is useful if you do not understand how the office functions, or you're looking for greater context as to how it fits into the wider sphere of the SCA. So yeah, that's me.
Miss Sassy?
I will say, number one, we have to shout out for our sister show, Ask the Knights. Otherwise, Logan will come after us. The other thing I'd like to say is that I'd like to shout out the people that do the back end of our show, and that's Mistress Ula and Master Carius and Baby Ninja that make the show work, even though we have a very, ad hoc at the end of the day kind of arrangement. These people make our show great. So I want to give them a thank you and a shout out.
So I'm gonna shout out like multiple things. Like, go check out Coach's Corner. Go check out the Outlands Royal Tea. Go check out any of Vesper shows. Like, good God, she's producing so many shows still on the Known World Fighter page. It's insane. Also check out the sisters interview. Jesus Christ, those guys are a blast to be interviewed by, and also watch their interviews. Like, you want to get to know some of the people that are in the SCA. And I'm gonna wrap this up with, there is a show in development right now that is a parody of our show, which is the best thing fucking ever. Like, no joke. I am super excited. There will be Between Two Privies.
Oh my God.
Which is a non-peer show that is based off our show, and I'm going to shout them out. I'm also, as soon as our show gets running, 100% going to drop their links. But they are taking the idea of this show and applying it to non-peers in the SCA, so you can get to know the various non-peers out there.
Well, can I just point out that we don't just interview peers? Currently, tonight, non-peer.
Yeah, but the two hosts are going to be non-peers. So yeah, I'm super stoked to see what they do with it, and where they go with it. Also, I'm delighted that we have a parody of our show, which is like a giant emotional ego stroke. But check them out. They already have a Facebook page going. They're taking questions. They're getting all their background stuff going right now. They're trying to do this very legitimately, and I'm super proud of them for how they're doing it. So check them out and go from there. And with that, I'll wrap up the show, and I will say thank you so much for continuing to watch us and support. Come check us out on Discord if you want to hang out with us during the week. There is a huge Discord server at this point in time, where we go anything from pets and plants all the way to hard conversations about things. And it's a great place to just hang out and get to chat with fellow people from around the known world. And beyond that, like and share. And warn people this episode has 12 dead minutes of just hilarity and us figuring out how to make our cameras black and white. But we'll see you all next week, and we're going to have Bjorn on, who is an amazing fan of the show, also an epic level bard. So I'm a little worried, because every time we have a bard on the show, that's when the throwdown occurs. So with that, I'll say we love you all, and good night.
Good night.